My name is Claire Morgan, and I'm 35 years old. Before I begin the real story, I need you to take a breath because the very first thing I share with you will hit like a punch. It was raining the night my parents came back into my life after years of silence. I opened my front door just a little, just enough to see their faces. Faces I used to love. Faces I used to trust. But trust doesn't survive when the people who raised you refuse to pay $93,000 to save your child's life. Yet somehow find $350,000 to throw an extravagant, shining, glittering wedding for your brother. That actually happened. And now they were standing on my front porch. I didn't wait for explanations. I didn't wait for excuses. I simply looked at them, looked at the people who chose a party over my daughter's heartbeat, and I closed the door. Not gently, not softly. I shut it, hard. And on the other side of that door, I heard my mother whisper my name. But by then it was too late. Or was it? Because what they wanted, why they showed up after all those years, was something I never expected. But let me not jump ahead. This is only the beginning. Before I tell you what happened after that door slammed, you need to know how we got there. You need to know who I am, who my parents are, who my brother is, and how a family that looked perfect from the outside shattered into sharp pieces that could cut anyone who touched them. And as we go on, I want to ask you, yes, you, where are you watching from? Are you in the United States? Canada? Somewhere else? Because this story, this one is going to sit in your chest long after you're done listening. Let me introduce everyone first so when the storm breaks later, you already know the names inside the thunder. There's me, Claire. Born in Seattle, raised in a home that always smelled like lemon polish and ambition. My parents, Elaine and Peter, believed in two things: success and appearances. They cared about how neighbors saw them, how church members saw them, how co-workers saw them. They cared about everything except tenderness. Then there's my younger brother, Ryan. Golden child. Perfect son. The one who could spill juice on the white sofa and be praised for expressing himself. Meanwhile, I got in trouble for breathing too loudly. And finally, most important of all, my daughter Lily. My bright-eyed miracle. My reason for breathing. My entire world wrapped in a 7-year-old body with curly hair and a laugh that felt like sunshine. Before the storm hit, life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We lived quietly in Minnesota. Just the two of us in a small but warm 2-bedroom home. I worked as a graphic designer from home, and every afternoon, Lily and I baked cookies we didn't need or danced in the living room to music that was too loud. We were happy. Not rich. Not fancy. But happy. And happiness felt like more than enough. Until the day everything changed. That morning started like any other. Simple day. Soft day. The kind of day that becomes a memory only because of what comes after. Lily and I were in the kitchen making pancakes. She insisted on adding too many blueberries, and I let her. Her little fingers crushed a couple on the counter, staining her hands purple. I laughed. She giggled. Life felt light. Then she suddenly grabbed the side of the counter. Her little knees buckled. Her face went pale. "Mommy, my chest hurts." First I thought it was just the flu. Or maybe she was tired. Kids get tired all the time. But then she collapsed. Just like that. 1 second she was laughing and the next she was on the floor. I screamed her name so loud I felt something tear in my throat. I drove faster than I ever had in my life. Running red lights, my hands shaking, my heart beating too hard and too fast. The hospital room smelled like fear and bleach. Doctors rushed in and out, saying words that didn't make sense. Cardiac anomaly. Ventricular defect. Emergency surgery. Rare condition. Survival chances. Felt like the world was spinning away from me. And then came the number. $93,000. That was the cost to save her life. It wasn't optional. It wasn't something we could delay. It wasn't something we could bargain down. It was the price between my daughter living or dying. I didn't have it. I had savings, yes, but nowhere near that much. My insurance only covered part of the costs. My hands shook as I dialed the last people on earth I wanted to call. My parents. My father answered with his usual cold voice. "Why are you calling so early?" Dad, it's Lily. She collapsed. She needs surgery. Costs. It costs $93,000. Please. Please help me. I'll pay it back. I'll do anything. There was silence. Long one. Then he said the words that split something inside me forever. We can't just hand you money, Claire. But it's for her life. I screamed. My mother took the phone. Claire, you need to learn responsibility. This is why we told you not to have a child alone. I felt something break in me. Something deep. Mom, she could die. We're sure you'll figure something out, she said. We're already financially committed to something important. I didn't know what something important was until 3 months later, when Lily was stable. But only after I sold my car, sold our house, took on 3 loans and worked day and night to make every payment on time. And then the invitation arrived. On gold foil. My brother Ryan's wedding. A $350,000 wedding. Fireworks. Orchestra. Imported flowers from Italy. And a private yacht. All paid for by my parents. The same parents who said they couldn't just hand over money. That day, something inside me turned to stone. I walked away from them. Completely. No calls. No messages. No visits. For years. And then, last week, they appeared at my door. And that's where I left you. At the cliffhanger. With me shutting the door in their faces. But now, let me take you back a bit. Back to the quiet days after Lily's recovery, when life was calmer but not easy. When bills still came like angry waves and sleep never lasted long because nightmares kept reminding me how close I came to losing her. This was the less extreme moment that followed the storm. After everything, Lily slowly regained her strength. She started smiling again. She began attending school part-time. We moved into a smaller apartment, but it was warm and it was ours. We held hands a lot more now. I never let her out of my sight. And she would touch my cheek sometimes, the way kids do when they know you're hurting, even if you're pretending you aren't. Mommy, you're my superhero, she said once with a little grin. But I didn't feel like a superhero. I felt like a woman who had almost lost everything. I fought. Every day. We lived quietly for years. No drama. No chaos. No contact with my parents or brother. Until the night everything flipped again. It was just after dinner. Lily had gone to her room to draw. The house was peaceful. Not loud. Heavy. Unmistakable. I wasn't expecting anyone. I wasn't prepared. I walked to the door, opened it. And there they were. My parents. Standing on my porch. After all those years. After all that silence. After all that pain. And the moment I saw their faces, something inside me snapped. Extreme event. My mother took a step forward. My father raised a hand. And I did the only thing I could do. I shut the door. Hard. And the last thing I heard before the wood met the frame was my father saying, Claire, wait. We need to talk. It's about your brother. But what happened next? And why did they really come? The moment the door slammed, the whole house seemed to shiver. Even the picture frames on the wall rattled a little, as if the past had reached inside and grabbed something by the throat. I stood there with my forehead pressed against the wood, breathing hard. My chest felt tight, my hands shaky, and my mind was a storm of old memories I never wanted to revisit. On the other side of the door, their voices murmured, soft, careful, unsure. My parents had never sounded unsure a day in their lives. That alone told me something was wrong. But I didn't care. I didn't want to care. Not after everything. Mom! Lily's small voice floated from the hallway. Who was that? For a moment I couldn't speak. I forced myself to straighten, wipe my face, and walk to her. She was holding her sketchbook. Her curly hair frizzed around her head like a warm halo. She had drawn a giant purple unicorn with a crooked smile. Should have made me laugh. Usually would. But right now, fear pressed down on me like a heavy blanket. It's no one, sweetheart, I said quietly, pushing a strand of hair behind her ear. Just someone who shouldn't be here. She frowned a little but didn't push. Lily was like that. Gentle, patient, a soft soul with big eyes and even bigger understanding. She had seen too much hard life for someone her age, and sometimes I wondered if she felt my emotions more clearly than I did. "Do you want me to go to my room?" she asked. "No," I said quickly, kissing her forehead. "Stay here with me." I didn't want her out of sight. Not with them so close. Not ever again. We went to the living room, and I turned up the TV just enough to drown out the muffled voices outside. After a few minutes, the knocking stopped. Then silence. Then footsteps going down the porch steps. When I finally peeked through the curtain, their car was gone. And yet an uneasy feeling slithered up my spine. They would come back. People like my parents didn't show up out of nowhere unless they needed something. And when they needed something, they always demanded it like it was owed to them. Like the world existed just to serve their wants. The rest of the evening passed quietly, but my mind didn't. That night, after Lily was asleep, I sat on my bed staring at the ceiling. Memories poured in like water from a broken pipe. Messy, unstoppable, painful. My childhood hadn't been violent. It hadn't been dark. Had been transactional. That's the best word for it. Everything had been about what you could offer, what you could accomplish, what you could present to make the family look stronger, richer, more picture-perfect. Love was earned, not given. Hugs were rare. Praise was rationed. And Ryan, my brother, received the biggest portion. I remembered the day he crashed his first car at 18. A brand new Jeep our parents bought for him because he had worked so hard getting into college. By the way, he didn't even apply himself. They hired a counselor to do half the work. When he called crying because he hit a pole while texting a girl, my father didn't yell or scold him. He just sighed. "We'll get you another one before school starts. Don't worry." But when I asked for $40 to buy a calculator for my math class, "Claire, you need to learn independence." That was my childhood in a single picture. And somehow, as adults, the pattern grew sharper. Their love for Ryan was a waterfall. Their love for me was a drop of water on a dry rock. But none of that compared to the moment they refused to help Lily. I could still see the hospital room. Still hear the beeping machines. Still feel the cold sweat on my neck. Still remember the doctor's voice telling me how little time we had. And my parents said no. Not softly. Not shyly. Firmly. Casually. Like saying no to buying a new couch. And then they paid for my brother's wedding as if generosity had never been a problem for them. A burning feeling grew in my chest. I gripped the edge of my blanket. I would never forgive them. Not for that. Not for almost losing Lily because of their values, their pride, their cold selfishness. But why did they come back? Why now? Why after all these years? Sleep never arrived that night. I checked on Lily twice, maybe 3 times. Each time, she was curled up peacefully, unaware of the storm at her doorstep. By morning, the sky was bright and cold. Minnesota's early winter creeping in. I made breakfast like usual. I packed Lily's school lunch. I walked her to school holding her hand. But the entire time, a strange heaviness followed me, sitting on my shoulder like a whisper. When I returned home, there was something on my porch. A white envelope. My stomach tightened as I picked it up. My name was written on the front in my father's handwriting. Neat, sharp, controlling. Inside was a letter. Just one line. "Please call us. It's about Ryan. We need your help." I sat down on the porch step. My heart didn't soften. Not even a little. The man who had everything, who got cars replaced, who got a $350,000 wedding, who had parents who treated him like royalty. He needed help from the daughter they abandoned? Didn't make sense. I folded the letter and shoved it into my pocket. I wasn't calling them. Not now. Not later. Not ever. As I walked inside, I told myself the problem was probably simple. Maybe Ryan needed money. Maybe they were in over their heads with some business mistake. Maybe his perfect little world finally cracked. Whatever it was, it didn't concern me. But deep down something felt off. A kind of quiet before a bigger storm. The rest of the day went normally. I worked on some design projects for a client in Denver. Cleaned the house. Answered emails. I made dinner. For a moment normal life returned. Simple. Gentle. I appreciated those simple moments more than ever. Because life had taught me that soft moments are gifts, not guarantees. Lily and I ate spaghetti together, telling silly jokes. I tickled her until she almost fell off her chair laughing. We took a warm bath, brushed teeth, read a bedtime story. Everything felt calm. Until 9:14 p.m. That was when the universe shifted again. I was in the kitchen washing pots when I heard it. Car pulling into my driveway. Froze. My breath collapsed in my chest. I crept quietly to the window, peeked through the blind, and my heart dropped. It wasn't my parents' car. It was worse. Much worse. It was Ryan's. My brother. The golden child. The man whose wedding cost more than my child's life. The man who didn't even call me once when Lily was in the hospital. He stepped out of the car looking nothing like the polished prince I remembered. His hair was messy, his clothes wrinkled, his face pale and drawn, and his hands were shaking. He looked broken. He stared at my front door for a long time, breathing hard, as if he didn't know whether to knock or run away. Then he raised his hand and bang, bang, bang. He knocked. Loud, sharp, urgent. Lily stirred upstairs. My heart raced, because this moment was the next extreme event. The moment that would change everything again. I took one slow breath, then another. Then I walked toward the door. My fingers curled around the handle. I wasn't ready to face him. But life didn't care. Something huge was coming. And when I opened that door, everything I thought I knew, about my family, about my past, about why they came back, would flip upside down. My hand hovered on the doorknob, trembling just a little. Not from fear, not exactly, but from something harder to explain. A mixture of old wounds, old anger, and a strange, icy curiosity. Why was Ryan here? Why now? And why did he look like someone had taken the world he lived in and smashed it to pieces? Behind the door he knocked again. Bang, bang, bang. Claire, he called, voice cracking. Please, please open the door. It had been nearly 7 years since I heard my brother's voice in person. Funny how a voice can bring memories you wanted to bury. I saw him again in every age. Ryan at 12 stealing cookies while I got blamed. Ryan at 16 getting a car while I worked part-time jobs for school supplies. Ryan at 25 walking down the aisle while I worked 3 extra shifts to pay Lily's hospital bill. But the man outside my door wasn't that Ryan. He sounded desperate. And desperation wasn't something Ryan ever needed to feel. Not in our family. I took a deep breath, turned the knob, and pulled the door open. And for a moment, I truly didn't recognize him. His eyes were bloodshot, shoulders slumped, skin pale like he hadn't slept in days. He smelled like cold wind and panic. His hands were in fists at his sides like he was holding himself together by force. "Claire," he whispered. I didn't answer. I just stared. He swallowed, looked past me into the house as if making sure Lily wasn't standing there. "Can I come in?" "No." The word came out sharp and fast. An instinct. Boundary. A wall 7 years thick. He flinched. "Claire, please. I know you hate me. You have every right to. But I need." His voice cracked again. "I need her help. Or, not my help. Her parents. They sent him." I felt my jaw tighten. "You shouldn't be here," I said quietly. "Go home." He shook his head, breathing hard. "I can't." Tried. "I can't face them alone." "Face them about what?" His eyes darted around like someone might be listening. Then he stepped closer. For the first time in my entire life, my brother, my spoiled, golden, untouchable brother, looked genuinely afraid. "It's my life, Claire," he whispered. "It's everything. Everything is falling apart. Please, just give me 10 minutes. I don't have anyone else." And that sentence felt strange. 'Cause Ryan had everyone. Always had. Always would. So why was he saying he had no one else? I crossed my arms. "Say what you came to say." "Not here," he whispered. "Not out in the open." I didn't like the sound of that. But I also didn't like the idea of him waking Lily, or making a scene, or dragging our quiet life into whatever dark mess he was drowning in. With a deep breath, I stepped outside onto the porch, closing the door behind me. "We talk here," I said. He nodded quickly, rubbing his face. Okay. He took a shaky breath. And then, slowly, painfully, he began. "It started a year ago," he said. "The money, the business, the things I was handling. Everything seemed fine. But then I made a mistake. No, more than one mistake. Bad investments. Worse decisions. I tried to fix it before Mom and Dad found out. I tried everything." He looked up at me, eyes red. "But Claire, I'm in trouble. Serious trouble. The kind you can't talk your way out of." I crossed my arms tighter. "You want money?" "No," he said immediately. "It's not about money anymore. It's bigger. Much bigger." I stayed silent. He ran a hand through his messy hair, pacing a few steps. "Mom and Dad think they can solve everything with money. They don't understand this. They don't understand what I got involved in. They don't understand what's coming." "What's coming?" I asked, unwillingly pulled in by the fear in his voice. He looked at me, and for the first time in his life, he didn't look like the chosen child. He didn't look privileged, confident, or untouchable. He looked like a man standing on the edge of a cliff. "Someone is looking for me," he said softly. "And when they don't find me, they'll come for them." I stared at him, shocked. He swallowed hard. "They already know where Mom and Dad live." His voice dropped to a whisper. "And they know about you." My stomach dropped. Cold fear crawled up my spine. "What do you mean they know about me?" I demanded. "Claire, I didn't tell them, not everything," he said quickly. "But they have ways. They've been watching me. They're angry. And when these people get angry..." He broke off, shaking. I had a million questions. Who were they? What did Ryan do? Why involve me? Why now? But before I could ask, Ryan stepped closer. "Claire, you're the only person who can talk to Mom and Dad. They won't listen to me. They won't believe me. They think I'm exaggerating. They think money will fix everything. But this isn't the kind of problem you throw cash at. What does this have to do with me?" I whispered. He hesitated. Because they want you too," he said. "And Lily." The world tilted. My breath stopped. I grabbed him by his jacket. "What did you do?" He opened his mouth. But before he could answer, a sound sliced through the night air. Crack. Loud, sharp noise. Not a car door. Not a branch. Not a firework. A gunshot. Very close. Too close. Ryan's eyes went wide. "Claire," he whispered, trembling violently. "We need to get inside. Now." Before I could move. Before he could turn. Before I could even breathe. Another crack. Split the air. This time closer. So close I felt the vibration in the wooden porch beneath my feet. Ryan grabbed my arm. "Claire, run." The world turned into a blur of terror. Ryan yanked my arm so hard I stumbled forward, nearly falling face first onto the porch boards. Another crack. Exploded behind us, so sharp, so real, so close that my ears rang. "Inside. Now," he shouted. I scrambled for the door, flung it open, and Ryan shoved me inside before slamming it behind us. The sudden quiet was horrifying, like the moment before a scream. My heart pounded so fast I could barely feel my legs. Somewhere upstairs I heard Lily's small voice. "Mom. What's happening?" "God." I turned to run to her, but Ryan grabbed my arm again. "Get down," he hissed, pulling me behind the couch. "What did you bring to my house?" I whispered fiercely. He didn't answer. His chest was heaving, hands shaking, eyes darting between the windows like he expected someone to burst through them any second. A shadow moved across my front lawn. Froze. Ryan's face went pale. They followed me. Every word, every breath, every second felt like a trap snapping shut. A knock came at the door. Not loud. Not rushed. Low. Heavy. Deliberate. Ryan grabbed my wrist so hard it hurt. "Don't move," he whispered. My throat closed. Lily was upstairs. Alone. Afraid. My body wanted to run to her, hold her, protect her. But I didn't know what waited outside that door. I didn't know who or what was knocking. Then a voice spoke from the other side. Smooth enough to be terrifying. "Ryan, we know you're in there." I pressed a shaking hand against my mouth. The voice was too calm, too patient, like someone who already knew the ending of a story because they wrote it. Ryan swallowed hard, tears gathering in his eyes. "Please," he mouthed to me. "Don't make a sound." I didn't breathe. "If you don't open the door," the voice continued, "we will." Closed my eyes. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. Not after everything I fought to rebuild. Not after everything Lily survived. Not after years of peace. I leaned toward Ryan. "Tell me who they are," I whispered. He shook his head, trembling. "Not now. Just keep Lily safe." My heart clenched. "I need to get her." He hesitated, then nodded. "Go. Quiet." I crawled across the carpet like my life depended on silence, because it did. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold myself up. I moved toward the stairs 1 inch at a time, feeling every vibration, every quiet scrape of my knees against the floor. Halfway there, the door handle jiggled. Froze. The voice spoke again, louder this time. "Last chance." I glanced back at Ryan. He mouthed go. I crawled up the stairs, each step groaning under my weight like it wanted to betray me. When I reached the top, Lily was standing in the hallway in her pajamas, clutching her stuffed bear. Her eyes were wide, frightened. "Mommy!" I heard loud bangs. I pulled her into my arms. "Shoo, baby. We need to be very quiet." My voice shook. I forced calm into it anyway. "We're going to your room, okay?" She nodded into my chest. We entered her small pink bedroom. I shut the door behind us and turned off the light. My hands fumbled as I slid her toy chest away from the corner. Behind it was the small crawl space I had sealed long ago when we moved in, originally for storage but big enough for us to hide. "Inside," I whispered. Lily crawled in obediently. I slid in after her, holding her close, closing the thin wooden panel behind us. Then we waited. Downstairs the knocking stopped. Silence filled the house again. A minute passed. Three. New sound. The door downstairs had been kicked open. Lily gasped softly. I covered her mouth gently, whispering into her hair. "I've got you. I've got you. I won't let anything happen to you." Voices filled the downstairs hallway. 2 men. Maybe 3. Their footsteps were heavy, confident. One of them laughed. I squeezed my eyes shut, holding Lily tighter. "Ryan!" One of them shouted. "Come out, and maybe we'll leave the girl out of this." That sentence almost made me scream. These men knew we were here. They knew about Lily. And they didn't care. I heard a crash. Ryan must have tried to run. Then scuffling. Furniture being knocked over. His voice, desperate, begging. "Please don't hurt them. It's me you want." A fist connecting with skin. A groan of pain. My stomach twisted. I couldn't help him. Couldn't get to my phone. I couldn't call anyone without making noise. And these men, they weren't robbers. They weren't random criminals. They were here for a reason. Terrible reason. And as they shouted at Ryan, I finally heard enough to understand. "You had one job," a man growled. "Deliver what you promised. You think you can disappear. Hide with your sister. After everything we gave you. Deliver. Promise. Everything we gave you." Ryan wasn't just in trouble. He was entangled in something deep, dangerous, and likely illegal. And he had brought it straight to my home. A sharp cry echoed downstairs. "Ryan." Then a harsh thud. My blood went cold. They were hurting him. Lily pressed her face against my shoulder, trembling. "Mom," she whispered. "Are we going to be okay?" I cupped her cheeks, my forehead against hers. "I will protect you. Promise." No matter what. We clung to each other. Downstairs, footsteps shifted. A drawer opened, someone searching. Something crashed again. They were turning my house upside down. Then one voice said, "Check upstairs." Everything inside me iced over. Mo, mo, mo. Lily's fingers clutched my shirt. The floor creaked as someone started up the stairs. One slow step at a time. I held my breath. Lily held hers. The footsteps reached the top. One step. 2 steps. Closer. Closer. The man entered the hallway. I could hear his breathing. He walked past Lily's room. Then stopped. He stepped back. Stood outside the door. My heart hammered so violently I thought he would hear it through the wall. The doorknob turned. The hinges squeaked. The door creaked open. And a heavy boot stepped inside Lily's room. Then another. He walked slowly toward the bed. Toward the closet. Toward the toy chest we had pushed aside. He was inches away from the crawlspace we were hiding in. I pressed my hand over Lily's mouth again, tears burning behind my eyelids. The man exhaled sharply. Then leaned down, right against the wooden panel hiding us. We could hear his breath, feel his presence, smell the cold on his jacket. And then, the crawlspace door began to move. He was opening it. The wooden panel creaked slowly, painfully, as if it were screaming along with me and Lily. My heart pounded in my ears. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to grab Lily and flee. But the space was small, tight, and there was no time. The man leaned closer, his shadow stretching over us. I could feel the heat of his breath, the cold of his jacket brushing against the wood. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold Lily. Then I felt it, Lily's tiny hand squeezing mine. I whispered into her ear, "Stay very quiet. I've got you. I promise." A slow smile crossed the man's face. "I know you're in there," he said. His voice was low, threatening, yet strangely familiar. "You can't hide from what's coming." I forced myself to stay calm. My mind raced. I couldn't just sit here. I needed a plan. Anything. Something to protect Lily. Then a voice, sharp, commanding, unmistakable, cut through the tension. "Stop!" It was Ryan. He stumbled into the hallway, hands raised, face bloody and bruised, but alive. "Please," he shouted. "She's just a kid. Don't touch her." The men froze. One of them laughed bitterly. "You think we care about the kid? We care about the deal, Ryan. You made it fall apart. Now everything comes with consequences." I realized in that moment, the danger wasn't random. It wasn't about me or Lily. It was about Ryan, the golden boy, the one who had never known limits, who had always been protected, who had always had money and power. And now his mistakes had reached my doorstep. Something inside me snapped. I pushed the panel open, forcing myself to stand. Lily clung to me, but I held her tightly. "I don't care about your deals," I said, voice steady, cold. "Leave my daughter out of this. Leave my home. Or you will regret it." The men blinked, surprised. No one had ever spoken to them like that. Not my parents. Not Ryan. Not anyone. Ryan looked at me, awe and fear in his eyes. "Claire, what are you doing?" "I'm protecting my daughter," I said. "Something you never understood. Something our parents never understood. Something I will never compromise." The tallest man sneered. "And what can you do, little lady?" I didn't answer with words. I answered with action. I grabbed the nearest lamp and slammed it down, breaking it. The shattering sound startled them, gave me a momentary advantage. I grabbed Lily and ran toward the stairs, heart hammering. Ryan hesitated, then followed, still bleeding, still shaken. The men recovered quickly, but the sound of sirens approached in the distance. Someone who had been monitoring the house, must have called 911 when the commotion started. The men looked at each other. Panic flashed across their faces. They weren't used to interference. They weren't used to consequences they couldn't control. And just like that they fled. I didn't stop running until I had Lily in my arms and the front door locked behind us. Ryan collapsed onto the porch, gasping. I stood there, shaking, holding Lily. She was frightened but safe. Alive. I looked at Ryan. Bloodied, bruised, humbled. The boy who once had everything was now the man who had almost destroyed everything for everyone he loved. Why did you bring them here? I demanded, my voice trembling. Ryan shook his head, tears streaming. I didn't know how bad it would get. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could fix it without anyone finding out. But I was wrong. I'm so sorry, Claire, for everything. For Lily. For all of it. I held Lily close, my body still trembling, but my heart heavy with something new. Empathy. Not for Ryan yet. Not for my parents. Not fully. But for the fragility of life, the weight of mistakes, the way desperation can drive people to dangerous places. I looked at my daughter's small face buried in my shoulder, and I realized something powerful. I had survived. Lily had survived. And no matter what happened next, with Ryan, with my parents, with the world, I would always fight for her. I also realized that the world wasn't fair. That people could be cruel, selfish, and reckless. But the same world also held the chance for courage, for kindness, for protection of what mattered most. Ryan's eyes met mine. I don't expect forgiveness, he whispered. I said nothing. I didn't need to. The silence carried all the meaning we both understood. Behind us, the sun began to rise. Pale, cold, and fragile, but real. And for the first time in years, I felt a small flicker of hope. Because no matter what my parents had done, no matter how far Ryan had fallen, no one could ever take away the life I had fought to protect. Not money. Not pride. Not mistakes. Not anyone. And that is where the story ends. Claire Morgan had learned the harshest lessons of life, yet she also learned the strength of love, courage, and unwavering protection. Lily would grow up knowing she was safe. That sometimes the greatest battles are fought not with anger, but with bravery, and the fiercest love can turn fear into triumph. And as for Ryan, his path forward would be long and uncertain, but at least now he had been shown the consequences of choices, and the power of the people who truly care. Because in the end, kindness and empathy are the only forces strong enough to protect what truly matters. The door may have been shut on the past, but it opened a path to a new beginning. The weeks after that night were quiet, almost painfully so. The police investigated the break-in, though the men never returned, and the truth about Ryan's troubles slowly unfolded. He had gotten involved with shady business deals, ones that could have destroyed not only him but anyone connected to him. But with Claire's unwavering protection and a clear path of honesty, he began paying the price for his mistakes, legally and personally. Claire kept a firm boundary with him at first. She didn't forgive immediately. She didn't forget the years of neglect, the times he had stood by while Lily almost died, and the life her parents had almost let slip away. But over time, she began to see glimpses of change in him. Ryan was learning humility, responsibility, and most importantly, empathy. The kind of empathy Claire had carried all these years without anyone's help. Lily thrived. She became more confident, more aware of the importance of courage, and more loving, even toward those who had hurt her. Claire made sure of it. She taught her daughter that kindness wasn't a weakness, that standing up for yourself and for those you love is the truest kind of strength, and that people who fail can still grow, but only if they take responsibility. As for the parents, Elaine and Peter, well, Claire never invited them back. She refused calls, texts, and even their attempts to show up at holidays. They tried to manipulate, to explain, to beg, but Claire held the door closed. Literally and figuratively. Eventually they stopped coming. The wedding money they had spent on Ryan's extravagant life became meaningless to him once he understood how little love it had represented. He realized it was money without heart, and in the end, it didn't protect him when real danger appeared. Ryan learned the hard way what Claire already knew. Love, courage, and integrity couldn't be bought. You couldn't bribe life to be fair, and you couldn't rely on others to protect what was yours. Only you could do that Claire, Lily, and Ryan eventually moved into a safer home, farther away from the past that had tried to pull them down. They rebuilt their lives, slowly but surely. Ryan became a partner in Lily's life in a way that mattered, not as the golden brother who got everything without effort, but as someone who had to work for forgiveness and trust. Claire, once broken by her parents' choices, became stronger, wiser, and more loving than she had ever been. And Lily, she never stopped believing in heroes. She saw her mother, who had faced near loss and terror, who had shut doors and made impossible choices, who had loved fearlessly, and she learned that bravery comes in many forms. Not always loud, not always public, but always necessary. Claire often thought back to that night, the night the world seemed to collapse around her and her daughter. She thought of the fear, the gunshots, the desperation, and the pain. And she realized something powerful. Surviving the storm didn't just mean making it out alive. It meant learning what truly mattered, protecting it at all costs, and having the courage to shut doors on what could never serve your life, and open doors to what could. In the end, Claire never regretted shutting the door on her parents. She didn't need their money, their approval, or their attention. She had something far more valuable: her child, her home, her courage, and eventually, the chance to help her brother understand what real love and responsibility meant. And as she watched Lily laugh in the sunshine, Ryan helping her with her homework, and the house quiet at last, Claire finally allowed herself to believe one thing: the past could hurt, but it could not define the future. The future was theirs to protect, theirs to shape, and theirs to love. The door had been shut, yes, but sometimes closing one door is the only way to open the right ones.